Hey everyone, it's Jason. Welcome back to some Zombicide White Death. So this is the beginning. So this is. Alright, so for this video, the group of survivors we're going to look at are all ones that were based off of various Chinese characters. So they're all from different dynasties. Some are from the Wu, some are from the Ming, just various different. So they might not even all been around at the exact same time or ever even interacted with each other. But they're all from various Chinese, or nor at least known for being part of the Chinese stuff. They might not be Chinese. They might have just worked with the Chinese places. A lot of these characters you'll be familiar if you played like Dynasty Warriors or Romance of the Three Kingdoms. So we're gonna go ahead and just hop into all these guys. So these are all. I did look this up. I typed in the name online for every single one of these characters, and they were all either actual people from history, or they were at least more fantasized. Like they were like maybe the obviously ones we're seeing are more fantasized and more epic to fit with the game series. But there's no like brand new or 100% made up characters. Some might have their lore a little bit more exaggerated than it was in real life, but that's still pretty cool. Alright, so we're going to start with Sun Tzu. So most people probably know him. That's why I picked him. He's probably one of the more famous people I hear that anyone knows. The Art of War, big giant book people quoted all the time about stuff. So let's take a look at his abilities. Let's take a look at his miniature first. So there's one thing to remember with any of these survivors, because they are stretch goal characters, they are not bounced like the core set. So the core set, probably even to an extent the Eternal Empire's expansion, or even probably the Ninja Turtles, like the retail stuff, they probably have people playtest them, make sure that they're not too unbalanced, they'll work in the game scenarios. These guys are can be unhinged if they want them to. Not to say all of them are, not to say that there's any that are extremely weak or anything. But they do have them. They can be a little bit more overpowered because they kind of just selected their abilities and threw them on there. So and hopefully they kind of fit what they're supposed to do. One other thing I did want to mention for lots of the Asian characters here is the way Asian naming mythology works versus Americans. Is it's usually last name first. So although it's Sun Tzu, like if we are saying this in America, it would be Su Sun. Like Sun is his last name. I'm not going to claim that's 100% right for all of these, but that's the typical thing it goes for. Also, I'm probably going to butcher names left and right, so I apologize. Alright, so what does Sun Tzu do for us? He can hold any combat spell, so really cool. And he starts off with his blue abilities. Brother in Arms, one free combat action. So we're starting off pretty heavy here. So Brother in Arms is a fun ability, because what it does is, as long as he's in the same zone as any other survivor, every survivor in that zone gains this ability. So right off the bat, he can give everyone a free combat action, so long as he hangs out next to the rest of them. He's kind of his guidance and stuff. The downside of the Brother in Arms abilities, if they're ever alone, they lose that ability. So they can boost everybody, but if they're ever by themselves, then they don't have it. And this is obviously going to happen when characters move around the board, because if they start the turn in the same area as you, then they have that ability, but then if they leave at the end of the turn to get closer and move something, then you don't start your turn with that, then you have to move into their same zone. So you wouldn't be able to attack right away with that special ability. He also gives guards a free action. In case you haven't watched any of the other White Death videos, just a quick brief reminder of guards. They're NPC characters that are on the boards in various missions, or you can have them set up however you want. Every character gets they can do one guard action per turn. They select a zone, they give every guard in that zone an action. So it kind of works a little bit like Brothers in Arms. So they can choose to have that zone, whether there's one or whether there's 6 miniatures in there, all doing attack action, whether it's range or melee, or a move action, and then sometimes other special things based on abilities they get. So Sun Tzu just to give them a free action, so he doesn't have to spend one of his own to do it, which is really cool. Alright, so then in his orange, his Brothers in Arms Spellcaster. Spellcaster gives a free magic or enchantment action, so it's kind of cool, you can give that out to everybody else. Then he has Lucky. Once per action, you can reroll all your dice once to give you a better option. So if you rolled pretty bad, you could re-roll all your dice. This could be very good for campaign mode as well. I try to say that it doesn't apply. I was going to say it might apply to keeping your weapons, but it doesn't. But it can definitely help just to keep your things around. Or if you're playing with the Ninja Turtles, they have the ability, if they ever roll ones, they can destroy regular equipment. So this could help keep the turtles around. If you had a way of transferring it. Obviously, it doesn't work that way, but Lucky could be good for that. In red, 1 free combat action or 1 free move action, or if he rolls a 6, he gets 1 die for combat. So it's kind of what you need towards the end. You need to move around to cast your spells better. Do you need to cast more things? Or do you need to get an extra die every time you roll, so you might just be able to do more damage. Just kind of be a little bit of a damage dealer towards the end. Alright, there's the back of his card. So I kind of tried to group these guys a little bit, how they were. I kind of also just pulled them out too, so we might not see all of them. Also, just note on here, it does say, guards do not benefit from brother-in-arms abilities. They're not, although they are technically survivors, they're not survivors, one of those types of things. Alright, so we're looking at Sun Quan. So, although being both of these are Sun Tzu and Sun Quan, are probably part of the same familiar line. I can't say, like, if it's, like, how related they are. And it might not be the same thing. How many times have you walked around and you found someone whose last name in America, whose last name is Scott, right? There'd be a lot of different Scots around the world. Doesn't mean they're all related. Heck, I've had people in the same town with the same last name that aren't related, so... and China's a very big country. So he starts with Reaper Melee. Actually, let's pretty good. Let's get his miniature. Yeah, so he's got this big giant sword, which is really cool. Double-bladed sword, actually. I'm hoping I have the right miniature. Some guys, kind of hard to tell after a little bit. When you start getting subbing to these guys with various weapons, they'll kind of start to look a little bit alike. But yeah, so there's that. He's I'm pretty sure that's him. All the other stuff on there indicate that that's him. If I have the wrong miniature, I apologize. It is very possible. There's a bunch of guys with big giant swords, so... yeah, so what does he do for us today? So he has Reaper Melee. So Reaper means whenever you defeat at least one zombie, you gotta take out one zombie of the identical type. So if he takes out 3 walkers, he just take out 1 additional walker. If he manages to take out 2 brutes, he gets an extra brute for free. And this counts as any type of that type. So if he takes out a walker, it's gonna count for crossbow walkers, berserker walkers, terracotta walkers. It doesn't matter. Same thing with brute. He can take out a regular brute. He can also take out a warden brute as well. Abominations or necromancers, if there ever happens to be 2 of them in the same zone and he manages to take out 1, he can take out an additional. That's not going to happen very often, but it could potentially happen. And then for guards, it's going to give them damage 2 for melee. So every time he tells them to do a melee attack, their damage is now 2, so they can help take out brutes and stuff as well. It makes them a little bit more efficient. In his orange, he has 1 free melee action or damage 2 for melee. So now his melee attacks do 2, which is even better for Reapers. And you can take out brutes and stuff even easier. And then he has, or red, he has +1 die for combat, 1 free combat action, or Barbarian. Barbarian's a fun skill. So what it does is whenever he rolls dice to attack, instead of using his weapon amount, so if his weapon gives him, let's say, 2 dice, he just to roll dice for every zombie in his zone. So if there's 5 zombies, he just roll 5 dice instead. So it gives him a better chance at taking out as many guys as possible when there are more guys available to fight. So very cool. So there's the back of his card. Our next guy up is, I'm not sure. This is Zhu Zaishu, I believe. I might be, again, saying these completely wrong. But he's going to get a hold of a great axe. Yeah, I'm sure my wife is sitting upstairs listening to me mispronounce all these Asian names and cringing. I like this big giant guy, right? This is really cool. Instead of just getting all the, like, skinny warriors. Yeah, there were some big bold guys in the world, so that's pretty fun. So he starts with shove. So shove and giving guards push are basically the same ability. So what it does is if there are zombies in your zone, you can move them from your space to a next space. As long as you can see that space. Like you can't push them around a corner or push them somewhere you can't see. But you can also push them off the battlement walls from White Death. So this is kind of nice. Or off ledges if you're playing, I think it's Green Horde to have the ledges where you can push them into water and walkers and stuff can't move up them. So you can push them back down there, which is kind of fun. And guards does the same thing. It just gives them push. The only difference it's listed is because you're pushing from their zone into another zone, where your shove you're pushing from where your survivor is into another zone. So they're just slightly different worded. But then in orange he has +1 damage for melee. So all his melee attacks do +1 damage. And he has roll 6 +1 die for melee. So here's one thing just to note though. So like 1 damage for melee versus our last guy who had melee does 2 damage. So all his attacks for melee would always do 2 damage. So if he has a 1-shot weapon, it's going to do 1. If he has a 3, it doesn't really help him any better. Because obviously you probably just use the 3 instead. But with this one, you'll always go up 1. So if he's using a weapon that does 2 damage, it now can do 3. If he happens to get a weapon that does 3 damage, he can now do 4, which is rarely ever going to need that. But it's just a slight difference between those two. In orange, he has red he has 1 free combat action, barbarian, and lucky, which we just saw both of those skills, so we're not going to go over all of them. Which is very cool. Alright, our next guy up is Zhao Yong. So yeah, he's a spear wielder. He uses any pole arm. So pole arms are a new type of weapon in Zombicide. They attack at melee type, but they attack at a range of 1-1. So they can't attack in the space you're in, but they can attack 1 space away doing melee, which is really fun because melee can sometimes have some really extra dice rolls or extra power abilities. But the fact you can attack at a further distance is pretty cool. But also keep the downside of that means you can't attack in your own space unless you have a specific polearm that does it. There are some that will. So he has 2 fun abilities. First of all, you notice he does not have a guard ability. He is one of the very few characters in the entire White Death that does not have a guard ability already on him. But luckily, you can get the guard skill cards if you want to give him an extra one to use. But he has Bloodlust melee. Bloodlust means you have to spend 1 point to do a move up to 2 spaces and then do a melee, do an attack, whatever it says. So in this case, it would be melee. So he gets to combine his move and attack action, but he has to move into a space with a zombie and attack them. So it's kind of one of the things I always watch. Is the up and down side to some of them. Yes, you get spend and get extra move and attack in 1 action, so there's 2 actions, but you have to move where zombies are. Which, of course, if you're a melee character, you probably would want to do that anyhow. Then he has close quarter master. So we haven't seen this, does not appear very often, but it says he can use polearms in melee range regardless of their minimum zone. So he can always hit people right in his spot. So that actually makes him pretty powerful. You give him a polearm thing, and then you can hit from anywhere. You can start taking out guys in his space, and then you can always reach over and poke into the next space too. Could even be beneficial to jump in, take out like a runner or 2 in his space, even if there's still zombies in his space, then stab over into the next zone where there's some more runners, just so that they don't activate again, or poke into the necromancer in the next space. So it gives him a little bit of extra advantage there. In orange, he has +1 die for melee or Reaper melee, so he gets that Reaper ability again. In red, +1 die for combat, 1 free combat action, or he gets 1 free guard action. So he does get a guard action, it's just he has to select it. He doesn't get it for free. But that could maybe be the end of the game. You're like, hey, we still have a lot of guards left. We can really utilize them a lot better. There we go. So there is his picture on the back. Alright, then we're going to get into a mage. We haven't really had a mage yet. So we have Zhou Shi, or Zhou Kai. I probably saw like Shi. Yeah, old wizardy looking guy. I love the action. Like he's black, like he's like launching a spell, so his hair's being blown back. guy's book open. Not sure why the artwork is opposite of the miniature. Don't know what happened there. Who knows? Not a big deal, but interesting, I guess. So he can use this sprint enchantment instead. So I haven't seen what sprint does. It just lets you, whenever you have sprint or you cast it as a skill, you get to move 2 to 3 spaces instead of 1. So it just lets you get across the board quicker. And since that's the enchantment, you can cast it on other players. But he starts with Spellbook. Spellbook lets you treat all your magical spells and your combat spells and your enchantments as if they were in your hand. So you can freely have any of them in your backpack. You can grab them whenever you need. You don't have to stop and do an action to rearrange your inventory ever. Plus, if you ever have 2 of them, regardless of where they are, you can dual wield stuff like combat spells. Then it gives guards the evade ability. This just lets the guards move out of the zone within zombies to 1 space without taking any penalty. So it's almost the opposite of their push, where push shoves zombies from where they are to somewhere else. This lets them move out of the zone of zombies. In orange, he has Escalation, Magic, and Spellcaster. We've seen Spellcaster already, but Escalation, whether it's Magic, Combat, or Melee, means as long as you perform an attack of the same exact type, you can add an extra dice. So again, if he has a magic attack, it rolls 2 dice. Then he performs another magic attack, he gets to roll 3 dice. And the next one, he gets to roll 4 dice, just to add 1 extra die every time he does a magic. The fun part about it is, it doesn't have to be the same exact spell every time, or if you're using like a melee or ranged one, it doesn't have to be the same weapon. It just has to be the same type of attack. And it gives him an additional die. So you could potentially even use like a magic attack that rolls for 2 dice, and the next one rolls for 3 dice, and he still gets the extra die on top of that, which makes it 4. So very cool. As long as you don't perform anything in between, that can be moving, guard action, searching, using another skill, rearranging inventory. Just it has to be the same type of attack repeatedly. Yes, very cool. And then in red, he has +1 free magic action, +1 die roll for magic, or if he rolls a 6, he does 1 damage to magic. So just, what do you need in there? Do you need extra die to potentially hit more guys? Do you want to hope to roll a 6 and do some extra damage? Or do you want to just have an extra free magic attack? That's the one that I do also. I think it's really cool about the way these guys look. So, like, you just look at the brown miniatures, they all look very much the same. But if you can start getting them all, if you could paint them all, and I know not everyone paints, definitely they're all going to look very unique and different. Like, even the guys we've seen, we've had some, like, grays, some reds, some purples. Like, this guy has a lot more blues and whites. It's just really cool. Like, you can make them all look very different. Here we have Tang Sanzang. It's another spellcaster. This guy's a big, giant, macy-looking wand. But he's also got some, like, beads on, which are really cool. Always with the flowing robes. I like to see someone like combat armor. Like a mage that's using combat armor. More of like a paladin-y type character would be kind of interesting. So Tang Sanzang can use... any combat spell, so I'll just give them a little extra bonus they can do, which is always really fun. So in the beginning, damage 2 for magic. So right off the bat, his magic spell does extra damage, and he gives guards push. In orange, she has escalation for magic and spellbook. And then red, +1 die roll for combat, lucky, and spellcaster. So that's even fun to just see how the different characters of the same classes relate. So he's going to do more magic right away. And then he has access to doing, using spellbook to have more things right away. Where him, on the other hand, is going to get his spellbook and his spellcaster right away. So he gets extra magic actions and can use them. His is going to be focused more on, hey, I can't cast as many, but when I cast them, they're going to hurt more. So it's kind of a little interesting how these guys can change from character to character. Using lots of the same skills. It's very cool. Alright, let's get back into some combat, guys. We have Marquise of Enel. So this one, I think the design is definitely based more off of like the fantasy games like Dynasty Warriors or Romance of the Kingdoms versus real life. I couldn't even really find an exact version of him in real life. I think he's more of like a mashup of a bunch of different designs. But he got this cool Wolverine look from comics. Big giant bladed claws. Now, I don't even know if those weapons are in there. That is one thing I honestly wish they would have done with lots of these guys have such really cool weapons. It would have been really neat to like have a lot more equipment cards made to reflect some of the weapons they're holding. Like, it'd been cool. And it's also just to note, his picture has 4 claws and these only have 3. And it's probably just the sake of so they don't break. But yeah, that I think that would have been really cool. Like, hey, we have claw weapons, or we have this cool staff that like maybe gives like helps you do magic stuff. Like, even if it's like a item, you know, that'd been kind of cool. Alright, so he starts with improvised weapon melee, and then he gives guards evade. So you don't see the improvised weapon very often, but here's what it is. Survivors can use this skill once for free during each of their turns. They perform a free melee action using these characteristics. So it's 0 range, 2 dice, 4 accuracy, 1 damage. Yeah, so that's pretty fun. He just automatically has a free attack every turn with that. So yeah, just did some actual, basically it's like to represent his claws, essentially. And again, that could have been just a neat thing, is they could have just, again, like maybe equipped his claws, like as a card, and been like, this is the improved melee weapon, like this has a skill, now you get to use this card every turn. Would have been kind of a neat little idea to do. Alright, then in orange has +1 die for melee, or 1 free move action. And then red, 1 free combat action, damage 2 for melee, and jump. We haven't seen jump yet. It's going to be seen a lot in this set. Jump lets you select the zone 2 spaces away, and you can hop over the space in between. This lets you avoid zombies that are in between them, or you could, if you have enough move stuff, you could possibly jump from one space with zombies escaping them into another zone out of zombies. It's a difference there. You can't jump into buildings or out of buildings. Obviously, there's a roof, but you can jump over like ramparts or hedges or off of the up and down off the battlement, walkway battlement. So that's a really very beneficial for some of the scenic stuff in there. So very cool. Yeah, there's like them big old claws. Alright, up next and right there on the back, they'll have the list of that improved weapon, just in case you needed to see it. Then we have Wei Yan. So this guy has like an Oni or demon type mask on, carrying around a halberd. So very, very cool. Oh gosh, he's a halberd on his hip. Look at this. This is double-sided blades. Again, this is a cool weapon to pick up. Like, I don't even care if they make them like, don't even need to be vault weapons. These could have just been like regular weapons. I would rather have like this than like spear, you know, double-bladed sword, like, right? That would have been cool. Or even just, again, if they had like a bunch of vault weapons for some of these characters. There's 70 characters. Like, I get not every single one would need to have a vault weapon, but even if you had like 30 more vault weapons with just extra little things or just cool designs, would have been kind of neat. Even if you're like, oh, when you set your vault up, select 10 vault items, and if you have 50 cards total of like every set you've played, hey, if you only can play 10 at a time because you need to have them limited for missions and stuff, it still would have been cool to like just have options to have a lot more different stuff. But that's just me. Alright, he's going to start off with Taunt. Taunt is definitely one of my favorite abilities. So Taunt lets you select a zone of zombies within line of sight, and then they get a free activation to try and get to your survivor. So they will ignore any survivors in the meantime, so if they move into a space with the zombies, or if they're in a zone with survivors, they won't attack them. They'll leave them without any penalty. So it's a great way to pull zombies away from your teammates. But it can also, again, be used to set up traps or other things like that. Like, you can use it to taunt to move a guy towards you into, like, a zone with other zombies. Like, you can freeze it or dragon bile it, or you could have someone attack it by pulling into melee range or range or magic range. just yeah, kind of use it to do that, or you could have them pull them away from a door. That way, another character on their turn could run through and get to that door quicker, or get to the objective, pull them off of an objective, so someone else can get to them without having to necessarily attack. So yeah, some really cool stuff there. For guards, there's 2 damage for melee actions. In orange, has Barbarian and 1 free melee action. In red, 1 free combat action, escalation melee, and roll 6 for +1 damage melee. We've seen escalation magic before, and now we have the melee version. So very cool. He's got that nice little furred collar there. Alright, so we've seen some magic characters. We've seen some melee characters. Let's check out ranged characters. So we have Zaihu Yon, or Yun. So he has the warbow. I like that this guy is a big, beefy archer. A lot of times you think of archers, I think your brain goes to, like, elves. You know, like Lord of the Ring type elves, like Legolas, where they tend to be a little bit skinnier. You know, like Robin Hood type characters, more agile. Like, this is a big, like, beefy guy. Like, I feel like if you get near him, he's just gonna whap you with his bow, and he's not gonna care. Like, he's, you know, like, I can imagine a character like this. He's carrying, like, a steel bow instead of, like, a little wood bow, so he can just beat you with it. Alright, so he's going to start with +1 free move actions. This is actually really good for ranged characters. It lets them get closer or farther away from zombies as they need per their range. For guards, though, he gives them 1 zone per move, so this will let guards move across the board a lot quicker as well. In orange, 1 free range action or damage 2 for range, so you can get more or do damage. In red, 1 free combat action, +1 die roll for range, like escalation range. Now it's your 3rd escalation ability. So he can just keep shooting arrows over and over and over and do a lot more damage. So very cool. Alright, our next guy up is Guyan Wee. Another big bulky one, but we got a soldier here. He's got a little axe. Actually, not a little axe. He's got a giant axe. But he's got a huge shield. I love this giant shield. We haven't seen too many guys with shields, but it makes sense, right? You're fighting archers and you're in combat. Why not have more shields? He's got the extra armor padding around his waist so someone doesn't come in and beat him. You know, you can argue that's probably not the best place to hold the axe, but I'm sure, again, some of that is for miniature size so they don't wreck or, like, break them down or something. Alright, so he has +1 damage for melee. So all his melee attacks do 1 extra damage. And again, this is the difference between the guards doing damage too. So guards can always do 2, which is nice. But his can upscale based on his weapons. So that means he doesn't necessarily have to look for those powerful weapons. If you find a weapon that does 3 damage, and there's no zombies other than the abominations that can generally ever take more than 3 damage, you could give that to somebody else, and he could hang on to a little bit weaker weapon and still make use of it. 1 free melee action or shove. In red, 1 free combat action, escalation melee, and Swordmaster. So I haven't seen Swordmaster yet in this one. It says it treats all melee weapons as if they have the dual type system. Or symbol. So this means once he has 2 different weapons, he can roll the dice together. And again, this works really well with his +1 damage for melee because, again, you can start off with, you could give him 2 of the starting weapons, right? So if, like, you have 2, like, basic swords, right, and other people upgrade, hey, you take this upgraded sword which has more damage. He's still going to do 2 damage with each of them swords, and if you end up doing that Swordmaster, now you can combine them and do twice as much damage. Not doing any more damage, but he has more dice roll, so it can make more effect of them weaker weapons, which is definitely awesome. There's the back of his car. We just see him. There's a little bit of zebra fur there. Alright, then we have a character with a musician. So she has, it looks kind of like a hammer, but it's some sort of musical, like, lute. So it's Dao Chan. So kind of like a bard type character, which is interesting. See if we can focus a little bit better there. Yeah, so she's got like her harp string chord. Obviously, they don't have any of the strings on there. It's gonna be too much, but definitely a different design for our characters. Like a big old hair waving down. But yeah, we've had a lot of armored warriors. And now I have someone that's not as much armored because they're, not meant to maybe be straight on the front line of the battlefield. Alright, so she starts with Taunt. And she has guards get 2 damage for ranged attacks. And then orange, +1 die for ranged, and 1 free ranged action. In red, +1 die for range, 1 free ranged action, and marksman. So she's just going to be able to she wants to sit back and do a lot of range. The taunt can be very helpful for that. So again, she could taunt the guys to get closer to her. That way she doesn't have to keep spending actions to move after she's shooting. She's like, boom, boom, I can shoot, taunt these guys to move 1 space closer. Now I can take them out without having to keep moving. Marksman is always a fun ability for ranged characters, so it lets them freely choose targets while their magic and range attack. Friendly fire is ignored. Because normally when you fire into a zone, you have to follow targeting priorities. It's usually abominations and brutes first, then it's walkers, then runners, then necromancers. Here you can pick off whoever you want, like if you're doing melee attacks. And you don't have to worry about rolling bad to hit your teammates, so you can definitely play at that taunt a little bit more. You could taunt even like a group of guys into like a zone with a melee fighter, start picking off who you can, and then let them clean up whatever's left. So very cool. Awesome. Alright, so there's hers. Alright, so up next we have Jan Ning. So yeah, big giant purple hair dude. I don't know what it is about some of these guys, but just the giant hairs is very interesting. I don't know if that's just a cultural thing or if that's like just like a frightening thing. Like, oh, he's a master warrior, so he has a he has a little dagger with him. Yeah, he's all ready, pumped up, ready to fight. Very cool. So he can hold a great axe, even though he doesn't have a great axe with him. But he starts with the jump ability, which we've already established. Like, you just move over things quicker, get up and down the battlement walls. But you can give the ability to guards, too, which is really cool because then not all the missions do guards start up on the wall. So therefore, it could give them a way to just jump up on the wall without having to, like, look for the stairs or look for ladders. Or if they're up on the wall, they can always hop down and start taking out some zombies ahead of time, and you can always try and beeline them back up the wall if they get in danger. It's just kind of fun. Then there's 1 free move action, and it's hit and runs. I don't think we've ever hit and run yet, which is a really cool ability in itself. So, anytime you after you perform combat, if you defeat at least 1 zombie, you get a free move action with no penalties. So you can move out of the zone or into a zone with another group of zombies. So it's great for if you can't quite finish off all the group. You do a big attack and you take out 3 of the 4. You have 1 left. You can use it to escape. Or you can always use it to just move into the next group of zombies, move maybe through a group of them. Take out 1. Move to the next group, take out another one, move to the next group, then take out the third, take out 1 guy in the third group and move through like 3 zones of zombies, or 2 zones, and then use regular move when you're in a clear area to get away from them. Might be a way to like get through or around a passage. So yeah, really cool. In red, 1 free combat action, 1 free move action, and then damage 2 for melee. So pretty fun there. There's his full picture. God, I can't imagine how many. A bright purple, though. I don't even know if I have that colored paint. I'm sure I do. We have Dai Clow, or Kiao. I'm not really sure. So we got another magician-y sorcerer. She's got a big old giant staff. I love that. So again, here'd be a thing. Is I think, like, they don't really have any staff weapons. All your weapons are for magic or combat spells. So it'd be kind of cool if they had, like, an accessory item. Like, you could put these on to, like, maybe channel their, boost up their combat spells or something. It would be kind of an interesting idea. I don't know how it would work at this point. You already have too many games out to just add a new element. She can hold any combat spell. She has 1 free enchantment action. She definitely wants to place her own enchantments. And she guards free action, so boosting up her team, support character. She gets 1 free magic action, and then she has Ironclad Walker. And then so I'm going to skip that for a sec. We have in red, 1 free combat action, +1 die roll for magic, and then Ironclad Runner. So Ironclad lets you ignore all wounds from zombies coming to the indicated type. So if she has Walker, she takes no damage from Walkers. If she gets the Runner one, she also takes no damage from Runners. So on the surface, this is an awesome ability. You can't take damage from zombies. Awesome, great. Let's get up in a little bit more in the thick of it without having to worry about stuff. The downside of it is, however, they'll just sit in your zone then and keep attacking you. They won't do any damage to you, but they'll keep attacking you. But then as more and more keep ganging up on you, unless you can somehow eliminate them, there's no way to get away. Granted, if you have a different character that could come in that room and then push them all out of the way, that would be worth it. Or Lifesaver and pull you out. That's one way to kind of combo with another team member. But you always have to worry, though, if, like, an Abomination gets in a group where you have 5 other walkers, you're never going to have enough action points to escape. So you then have to make sure you kill that Abomination in one turn, and she herself might not have enough stuff to do that. So yeah, it could be a good way to maybe, like, not have to worry about it as much, but you gotta also make sure you have an escape plan if you're using it that way. Cool. So there's her full picture. And the fact she can get both is really neat. I think they only have one for Abomination. I don't know if there's a Ironclad for Necromancers at all. Alright, then we have Sai-Hao. So we got another mage. So this guy definitely looks very magey. His little fireball in his hand. He has a dragon staff. I like his robes and stuff make me think, like, really give off the impression of, like, he's a holy mage. Like, maybe belongs to, like, the church or something like that. Especially as, like, kind of like the cross type symbol in the middle. Even though it's not necessarily just a cross, it's kind of what they used in that time. Kind of like almost, I think, like, get people to aim towards that. But yeah, so he has +1 die for magic, 1 free guard action, so it's always good. And then in orange, roll 6 for +1 die magic and spellcaster. In red, 1 free magic action, +1 die roll for magic, and then hit and run. So it's kind of neat there, hit and run, because it doesn't care if you're in the same zone, so he can magic attack a guy. Oh, I didn't defeat all of them. Now they're going to be able to move towards me. You can always move back. A little bit farther, or you could be ranged attacking them, and then you can always jump in and melee them, or melee them, and you didn't quite finish them, back up a space, and then magic attack them if you have a magic. So there's some really cool combos with that. Usually we only see it on melee characters. It's nice to see it on a ranged character as well. So very cool there. You know, he's got these bright purple and white robes. Alright, up next we have Hung Guy. It's a big barbarian looking dude. Definitely. He's got an eye patch on, so he's taking some battle wounds. Look at this massive sword he has. I always love the little flags on there. I know they have some sort of purpose on why they tie them on there, other than just being decoration. I don't know what they are. I like the shoulder armor's kind of cool. It's got the little triangle symbol. The Triforce in his pockets. So yeah, he can use a greatsword. Then he has damage 2 melee, and guards get damage 2 for melee. So he's just going to be able to pump out some melee attacks. For orange, 1 free melee attack, escalation melee. So he's all about just attacking. 1 free melee action, bloodlust melee, and shove. So shove is kind of nice just at the end. If he ends up getting too overwhelmed, you can at least push guys away from him. Very cool. There he is. Bare legs even. He's going all out. Then possibly related, we have Hung Zhang. Got old magey guy here. Looks like an old mage, but he's actually an archer. It's nice, cool. Like, right, we get some archers that are different age groups. Like, of course, there has to be old archers somewhere. They don't just all die young. Nice experience. Now, I talked in one of the other videos about having arrows on their back versus arrows on their hip. And here we got guys with arrows on their backs. And I think the big difference between the two is arrows on your back are more for like precise range guys that are going to be taking their time, and then arrows on your hip I think are meant more for like guys that might be up doing combat more often. Don't have as much time to sit there and just focus on aiming. Alright, but he has one free ranged attack right off the bat. That's always helpful. And he can give guards extra range. So you can sit there with them and attack. In orange, one free die action and marksman, so he can choose his targets. A red, one free combat action, plus one die roll for range and escalation range. And you just keep firing them arrows repeatedly. Cool. Alright. We have Ma Chao. So this might be getting some more of the guys that people might know about. More of some of the more famous characters. This guy's definitely a dragony theme. Big old lance. Let's take a look at his miniature there again. Big giant hair. Which I think is like, this is attached to his helmet, so it's not like the real hair. But yeah, it's like the feather on his spear. Very badass looking. He has like little knee pads too, little dragons on knee pads. Cool. So what does he have? He has, he can use a Gusamar arm, different type of spear. He has one free move action, and guards can move one per zone per move, so just getting around the board quicker, positioning. One free melee action. He has charge. We have yet to see charge. So charge can use the skill once during each turn for free. They move 2 zones containing at least 1 zombie. So we have other movement things. We have sprint, which lets you move up to three zones, but it costs you an action point. We have bloodlust, which lets you move up to 2 zones, but you have to move into a zone for zombie. You get a free attack, but again, it costs an action point. This is just a free movement, so he can for free move an extra space, but he has to go into a zone with the zombies. It just helps him get up quicker, but then now he can decide if he wants to attack or not. In red, 1 free combat action. Plus 1 die roll for combat, and he rolls a 6, he has plus 1 die for melee. So yeah, very interesting. We don't see charge that often, I think, because a lot of people just rather have bloodlust, right? But now we're going to move into a zone with zombies. Why not also have an attack? But the difference is this is free, so then you can still decide what kind of attack you want to do. Or he has lots of stuff for combat instead of just straight melee. And there's his full image. Alright, then we have Mu Yuying, so another combat type mage. Very interesting. So she's got these big feathered brows up at the top. She got a sword, which is a little scroll there. Very ornate dress. She also has these triangle flags on the back. So I'm not exactly sure the purpose of those. I don't know if that just represents her just showing off her nationality, or if there's, again, like a strategic purpose for that stuff. But she has 1 free melee action, so you can start off doing some extra melee. Can have guards push. For orange, 1 free magic action or 1 free melee, so now she can kind of decide on what she wants to be doing. And then red, combat gives her option of both of them, so depending on which way she chose to go. So 1 free die for combat, 1 free combat action, or plus 1 dice roll for combat. So very cool. When they get some of these like diverse characters who can do anything, that's always fun. But I also even like the ones where they're like, this guy's just melee, this guy's just range, because now they can kind of push those abilities a little bit more. Alright, we have Sha Wujing. So Uger Mag, who's going to use this double type spear. She's got like a double blade on one end and then like another pointy staff part on the other. So it's probably one's for slashing, one's for stabbing. Like to be standing on a rock. That's pretty neat. I like to don't do too much with the bases on here. Just because then they match all the rest of the games. I know some games when they start doing multiple, they get farther into the generation. We can make more models. We can make really cool bases. Yeah, they do look neat when they're standing on top of stuff. But then I think it also kind of takes you out of the game a little bit. One, when they don't match previous iterations, and then two is if they have these big fantastical bases, and then like where are they supposed to be standing? Oh, he's standing in the middle of a road, but yet his base he has an ocean behind him. It doesn't really make any sense. So yeah, so he's gonna start with Horde, which we went over this before, but I don't remember. Can have 2 extra equipment cards. They're placed on their dashboard and is going to be in his backpack, so you can store extra items. Gives guard push. He has 1 free melee action, 1 free move action, and then red, 1 free combat action, 1 free enchantment action, or bloodlust melee. So kind of do whatever he sort of needs to do. Having extra enchantment action is nice if you have the Horde, because you can store extra things in there. And then bloodlust melee, just you can get some more things. It would be kind of neat if he also had like Swordmaster, just because of the melee, because that way he could have utilized double weapons in there, which would have been fun. So here's this one, that side, full picture. Then we have Lubu, so he's a very famous guy on there. Alright, so Lubu, I love his shoulders there, right? There's like a demon on there, an Oni. She's got some of them wicked hair up there as well. Some cool dragon pauldrons. Got a really neat halberd. His tape was on the bottom. I thought he had like some crazy ass feet as well. So I think he's one of the main characters of the Dynasty Warrior or Three Kingdom type games. Or at least a prominent character. I don't know if there's ever a main character for them. But he's one that I know a lot of people are looking forward to this. Alright, so he has +1 die for combat, and then guards +1 damage for combat. So that's pretty cool. It's going to make all the guards a lot stronger. +1 free melee action, +1 free ranged action. So yeah, kind of what you need him to do. And then in Reg, 1 free combat, roll 6 +1 die for melee, or roll 6 +1 die for range. So he's gonna, yeah, it starts off with combat stuff, and then you can decide you want him to be a ranged or melee character. Gives him some different options. So yeah, pretty cool. Alright, there's the back side, so you can see some of his, yeah, like lots of black with big red feathers on there. I think that's sometimes to help just maybe distract guys, or maybe just so you know who's who when you're fighting the armies. Not for sure on that. Alright, then we have Chow Ren. Or Cow Ren might be related to Cow, or Chow, however you want to pronounce that. This is one of my favorite miniatures of this entire set. So I love this. He has this huge tower shield, which has an ogre on the front. So last time you see guys who just like the regular, look at that giant ass sword. I just love the model for this guy. Like, I was literally like, going to like, oh, who am I going to play through first? If any of got this guy right here. I don't know what he does for his abilities, but just his miniature makes me want to play as him. Also interesting though, he can only hold an extra greatsword, not a shield. But that would have, again, been a really cool, that could have been a really cool vault card with just giant great shield that he's holding. So he has shove and push for guards. Makes sense, he's kind of using a shield as a thing. 1 free melee action, and then tough. We have not seen tough yet. So tough just lets them ignore the first damage they would take. And friendly fire during survivor's magic or ranged attacks. So he can get it right in there. He's not going to take damage from his teammates. And he can avoid the first damage, so he can usually kind of face a little bit more. Then he has Bloodlust Melee, Damage to Melee, or Ironhide. So, yeah, getting towards the end of the game, you need him to be able to move and attack more, deal more damage, take out bigger threats. Or, are you getting overwhelmed? Give him Ironhide if he hasn't got a good shield or equipment yet, or you can toss that to somebody else to keep them alive, and he gets that extra free armor, so that's pretty fun. And there's some of his more artwork there. Awesome. Alright, then we have the Young Phoenix. This is one of the few characters that doesn't have just a straight name, and it's just kind of like a nickname. I can't remember their exact name. Let me check here, I have it on my computer. Pan Tong was the name of the person. So I don't know why they chose one over the other. But it's kind of like a nickname for that character. But this could have been a nickname for a bunch of different people as well. It's just what I found. So we got this mage with the cool gnarled staff. The big triangle hat with the little metal pieces holding up on there. There's a spell book out. Has a space kind of hidden. It's like, I'm mysterious wizard. Alright, starts with spellbook, so that way you can use anything in there. It has freeze range. I don't even know if we've had anyone else that's had freeze in here. So just as a reminder, what freeze does is, whatever zone you target with this ranged attack, or whatever the freeze would be, you place a snowflake token or the freeze token on the board. Then any zombie in that zone that tries to activate at the beginning of the next turn loses all activations. If there are ever no zombies in there, it disappears, so you just set up traps ahead of time for them to walk into. And any zombie that would walk into it after it's already activated doesn't happen. It's kind of like a burst. It shoots a freeze, stops all them from moving, but it doesn't do anything if zombies walk in there after their activation. It's kind of it's a neat ability. I can see sometimes thematically why it's kind of weird, because like if I shoot this zone and I freeze it, you'd think it kind of makes sense. Like I'm stopping whatever's in that zone, but not at that exact moment, because like you could use you could end up drawing a spawn card that moves guys into that zone, or you can have like a shove or a push that pushes guys in there, stuff like that. Also, the one thing I know people said they thought was weird, because you do freeze an area, you can't move out of the area, because you don't freeze them immediately. It doesn't actually freeze them until they try and move. So it stops their activation, but it doesn't give you a freedom to move. That might be a house rule people want to play with, but that's your call. 1 free magic action and +1 die roll for magic. Then red, +1 die for magic. Freeze magics, now he can do it himself, and spellcaster. So very cool. Alright, only got a couple more here to go. So the last 3 were kind of special, which is why I saved them for the end. So everyone should know who this character is. This is Hua Mulan. Famous CEO, probably from the Disney movie more than anything, but also she's like live action, real person, where she was female that dressed up as a man to try and take place of her dad's son in the army. I'm sure it's slightly different iterations of all of it, but yeah, so we have Mulan here. So she gets, it's kind of cool that they included her in there. It makes sense if you're going to include famous Asian characters. Now, the whole sleeve thing there by her face looks kind of weird. It's supposed to probably be like a guard mask. Maybe to help protect her from people seeing she's a female. But obviously at this iteration of her model, she's clearly not trying to hide it anymore. She's a badass in her own right. So cool. So yeah, she has jump, so she can move around the board quick. And then she gives the guards lucky, so they get some extra die rolls. In orange, +1 free melee action and +1 free move action. So again, kind of where you need to be. And then in red, 1 free melee action, 1 free move action, and 1 free ranged action. So actually the melee and move, it's just she wanted to be able to bounce around the board really quickly and do some damage. So that's pretty fun. There's her full artwork. Alright, so the last 2 characters aren't technically historical beings in the fact is they're not real people. They're based off of like gods or deities or folklore. Again, as far as I could tell, and I could be potentially wrong about this, I didn't do like a ton of thorough research. I did a quick search on the internet. But we have Kai Shing Yi. So this gentleman is, so he's kind of like one of their, like, kind of like beings they sort of worshipped. There's this big giant gold coin. I'm sure that has something to do with it. But he's not like a warrior that would have been fighting on the ground. So again, he might have been based off a specific person, and then they just kind of deified him. Or he might have just been kind of like, hey, this is a guy we talk about, but no one's ever technically seen. but he can search more than once. This is kind of a neat ability. So you can normally only search a building once per turn. This is so you can't just sit there and rampage and find items immediately, but he can do this more than once, help you find items right off the bat. So it's kind of like a god of prosperity almost. You can give the guards lucky, which helps them out. In orange, he has 1 free magic action, and is that all you've got? So is all that you got. Usually goes with the searching abilities. Because it says anytime you take a wound, he may discard an equipment card to negate 1 wound. So if he's already gaining extra equipment by searching more than once, he can use it to keep himself alive. In red, he has 1 free magic action, escalation magic, and then Horde, which gives him 2 extra slots. So by the time you get to Horde, it's really like he can just keep staying alive because, you know, he search here and there and just keep grabbing basic items. Hang him out to his teammates. Hey, I'm going to give you this better sword. Give me your starting equipment. Oh, I'm going to take damage. Here, I'm just going to discard that starting equipment. Who cares? So he can be very good for that. So pretty cool. There's his full artwork. And then our last character is part of the Chinese set is the Jade Empress. So I don't actually know if there's any reference to the Jade Empress herself, but there's a lot of stuff to the Jade Emperor, which lots of times that I think would be known for Legend of the Five Rings. Had a lot of stuff with that. I don't know if there's a lot of our crossover with that. So yeah, kind of getting just a different version of that. And that might even be just because like the Jade Emperor is probably maybe so high esteemed. They didn't want to maybe make a miniature of him, but we can make one out of, like, his wife. Doesn't really exist or isn't, like, prominent like this. Yeah, she's got, like, is that like a bladed dagger in her coat? I'm not really sure, but she's got this big giant spear behind her. So, yeah, basically, kind of powerful empress, like, worshipped being. Yeah, she has 1 free search action. She's going to help you find stuff. So very, the kind of idea of that, right? And then she can have guards freeze melee. In orange, +1 die roll for melee and horde. So here she can search for stuff without just spending an extra action. She still only gets 1 per turn, which she has to spend her actions doing it. But then she can hold more items. In red, 1 free combat action, +1 die for combat, and 1 free move action. So yeah, pretty cool. Alright, that is her artwork there. It's a pretty neat artwork. Such a big artwork open, so you have all the extra stuff on there. Alright, that's what we have for this video. We went through all the Chinese characters. So yeah, check out the other parts of the Frozen Fortress box set, where we go over the Japanese and other Asian cultures. We got a couple of them in there. Then check out the other one that's like the anime, and like based off reference characters and the animal characters, and then also make sure you check out all the zombies. See you guys later. Bye.